Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased, true crime channel. First on the docket, Kyle Rittenhouse. Is he following the conditions of his bond? The district attorney doesn't think so. Second, a breaking development in the Jennifer Dulos disappearance. Number 3, former police officer Adam Coy charged with murder in the death of Andre Hill. Fourth, an update on the live streaming matter that we talked about the other day. A former politician and former state trooper arrested for a new charge while on bond. An update on the Pennsylvania neighborhood dispute we talked about the other day. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and then also hit that little bell over there in the corner so that you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content. A busy docket today, so let's get right to it. First on the docket, is Kyle Rittenhouse following the terms of his bond? Well, the prosecutors in his case don't think so, and they've asked a judge in Kenosha County to issue an arrest warrant. They allege that Mr. Rittenhouse has not kept up on the conditions of his bond, specifically that he has not informed the court that he has moved. The district attorney is asking that Rittenhouse's bond, which has already been set at and posted by friends of Kyle Rittenhouse via a crowdfunding campaign, is $2 million. They're asking that another $200,000 to make sure that he complies with all of the terms that are as a condition of his bond. This bond increase request came about as a result of a document that was sent by the court to the address where Kyle Rittenhouse was to be staying. Apparently it was returned, basically stating that Kyle Rittenhouse did not live there. The district attorney got wind of that and said, hey, first of all, it's very unusual for somebody charged with 2 counts of murder and various other aggravated assaults to be free on the streets pending trial. And certainly we want to know where he is at all times. The attorneys for Kyle Rittenhouse are objecting to the warrant as well as any bond increase. The attorneys for Rittenhouse state that when the bond paperwork was being signed, they were specifically told by the police department, do not put his physical address where he would be for his own safety. They have attorneys that are testifying to that and have identified the officers that gave that instruction. The attorneys have also said, we'll provide any of that information to the court as to Rittenhouse's location as long as it is kept under seal, i.e., which means no one other than the court and the attorneys in the case can get access to it. What that means is that perhaps there was a justifiable reason for not listing Kyle Rittenhouse's address because that's supposedly a safe house. Apparently, he has received threats to himself and his family members. The court is going to have to decide. Now, as you may recall, this is not the first time that there have been issues regarding bond and Kyle Rittenhouse. Apparently in Wisconsin, if you're 18 and you're with a parent, you can drink. You can't do that in Illinois, where Rittenhouse supposedly resides, but he was photographed in a bar, basically drinking and potentially putting up some signs on his fingers that would perhaps not endear himself to lots of people. Now, I said at the time, Mr. Rittenhouse needs to hang low and do whatever he is supposed to do as a condition of his bond. If I was his attorney, I'm sure his attorney is telling him this. You need to not get in trouble. You want to fly under the radar. Don't give them any reason to send you back to jail. Don't push it. This kid may or may not have a viable case. We'll have to wait and see how the evidence comes out at trial. The jurors in this case are going to have a very difficult decision. But the last thing that Mr. Rittenhouse or his attorneys need are a circus sideshow with him doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing. It's just against common sense. And frankly, it shows a bit of arrogance on Mr. Rittenhouse's part. We will have to wait and see how this develops, if the court grants the motion or denies it, and perhaps maybe brings Mr. Rittenhouse into court and admonishes him and says to Mr. Rittenhouse, "You are on a very short leash. You better behave or I will throw you back in custody, because the bond will be so high that you will not get out unless you are found not guilty at trial." It's a high-profile case. Everybody wants to be on their best behavior because everyone is watching. Next on the docket, some breaking news in the Jennifer Dulos disappearance. As you may recall, we talked last week about some digging that was taking place near the Dulos residence. Well, we also know that Mr. Kent Mawhinney, who was the friend and former lawyer of Photos Dulos, who was obviously married to Jennifer Dulos and was the prime suspect related to her disappearance, proffered with police officers and the district attorney prior to his release on bond, whereupon they did not object to him going to see his ailing father down in Florida. Well, it was revealed in court yesterday that Mr. Mawhinney will more than likely be called as a witness against Michelle Troconis, the girlfriend of Photos Dulos. Well, that is not a good development for Miss Troconis. Miss Troconis' attorney has asked for any information as far as leniency to be turned over. That has to be turned over, but apparently hasn't been turned over as of yet. What have I said? The threat of imminent incarceration tends to break the bonds of loyalty. A lot of interesting issues, however, as it relates to Kent Mawhinney. What was said to him as it relates to attorney-client privilege, or what was said to him as it relates to being a friend or being a participant in a homicide or helping cover up a homicide. Lots of legal issues there that are going to have to be flushed out before Mr. Mawhinney actually takes the stand. That proffer should be turned over rather soon to the defense, as they're entitled to it, particularly in the light of the fact that they have indicated that Mr. Mawhinney will be testifying. One thing is clear, however, is that Mr. Mawhinney has not been able to say where the remains of Jennifer Dulos are, because if they had been made aware of that information, I assure you they would have gone and recovered her remains. Not looking good for Miss Troconis for sure. Also curious as to what sentence Mr. Mawhinney would receive. Would he still go to prison, or is this his golden ticket out of prison? Wait and watch. Next on the docket, that's right, former Columbus, Ohio police officer Adam Coy has been charged with murder in the shooting death of Andre Hill. We first talked about this case. This case had trouble written all over it for now former police officer Coy. The police were responding to a noise violation where Mr. Hill was in a car, apparently in his garage, and would apparently turn on the car occasionally because it was cold outside, listening to music, doing whatever he wants. It's his house, his car, he can do it. When the police arrived, Mr. Hill apparently comes out of the garage holding his cell phone, where Officer Coy shoots him. That's right. He was literally fired the next day. Officers on scene were also suspended, and ultimately Officer Coy was fired immediately. Now, the family of Andre Hill is obviously relieved, but they are not satisfied with the indictment alone. What does that mean? That's right. They have contacted an attorney, and the attorney just happens to be Mr. Crump. And what does that mean? It means money. And how do you get money? You sue the city. That's right. So the attorney has contacted attorney Ben Crump. This guy's everywhere. And guess what? The city is going to write a check. Bottom line, Nothing about this case, from what we know, appears to be justifiable by the actions of now former Officer Coy in any way whatsoever. What's even more disturbing is not only that now former Officer Coy, but the other officers on scene waited at least 15 minutes to administer aid to Mr. Hill whatsoever. This case is just wrong, wrong, wrong. We'll give former Officer Coy the presumption of innocence, but he needs to make himself comfortable and get used to his new reality. Next on the docket, let's give you an update on that live streaming situation where it was a homicide scene. The other day, we talked about Raymond Weber, who has now been charged with 2 counts of murder after he was seen on a live stream with 2 bodies as he held a gun and said the victims and his brother were trying to set him up. Well, the victim apparently turns out to be Mr. Weber's fiance. They apparently were just engaged as of last week, as well as a 15-year-old girl as well. The victims have been identified as Savannah Theberg. She was 26, would have been 27 this week. She is the fiance of Mr. Weber, and she also has a 4-year-old boy. There was also a 15-year-old girl that was found deceased at the scene, but the police are refraining from giving her name for obvious reasons at the request of the family. Not that Instagram or YouTube could have known what was going to take place, but apparently they did have some trouble taking the live stream down, and it was on Instagram for at least some 36 minutes. Apparently it can still be found on some places on Twitter, but it appears to be off of YouTube and Instagram at this time. Obviously, Mr. Weber will get the presumption of innocence, but it sounds like an absolute senseless killing indeed. Next on the docket, a former city councilman by the name of Kerry Trent Kennard, who faces life in prison if convicted because he is now being charged with third-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor. Now, Mr. Kennard is 49 years old. He is also a former state trooper and magistrate in Jasper County in South Carolina. Mr. Kennard is possibly making a run for the dumb criminal contestant, but in this particular case, Mr. Kennard went to purchase a firearm. For those of you who do not know, Mr. Kennard should know that when you are on a bond, you are not able to go and request to purchase a firearm. Hell, in most cases, you're not allowed to possess a firearm, particularly on a felony charge. Mr. Kennard knew he was on a felony charge, but he went to buy a firearm anyway, and when he was filling out that paperwork, he stated that he was not under felony indictment or a restraining order while trying to buy that gun. Needless to say, the feds believe that they can prove that he knew he was under felony indictment and that he was illegally trying to purchase that firearm. Yep, that's right. All those questions that you answer when you're going to buy a gun, if you lie on them, you can be prosecuted for that. And Mr. Kennard is being prosecuted for that. Bottom line is, if you are a felon, you can't possess a gun. If you are on probation, you can't possess a gun. If you are on bond, you can't possess a firearm. Bottom line, don't do it. And why would Mr. Kennard need a firearm now? Just is not good for Mr. Kennard. He is being charged federally in that case, and he could wind up remaining in custody in light of the fact that it is a firearm offense and he could be perceived as a danger to the community and be held without bond in the federal system. Mr. Kennard, you knew better. We'll still give you the presumption of innocence, but you knew better. Now, wouldn't you like to be able to say that you knew better? That's right. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Be able to do a criminal background search on anyone that you would like. When you do so, when you sign up, you can search literally millions of public records by simply typing the name into the database. Millions of public records are searched, and you're going to get a report while you wait. And that report is going to have information regarding arrests, convictions, sex offender registration, property records, bankruptcies, civil judgments, things that you want to know about individuals. That's right. The case of Mr. Kennard, somebody ran a background check and said, hey, he can't have that gun. It took a couple of days because the attempt to purchase that firearm was back in December, but it all caught up to him. Make sure you are making good decisions about people you are going to be involved with in your life. Go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. And here's the thing, you can be satisfied. And if you only use it once, you can cancel after that one search. It's well worth the money. We use it every day here in my law firm. Next on the docket, do you recall the case that we talked about the other day about a shooting that took place between neighbors? That's right, a dispute over shoveling snow. Well, a subscriber has sent us the video of the entire incident. It is rather disturbing, and it just shows you how quickly neighborhood disputes can get out of hand. And let's just say in this particular case, the couple that was killed in this particular case were dishing it out and going back and forth verbally. And then the man who's now deceased, who is responsible for taking of those lives, went inside not once, but twice and obtained a firearm. He ultimately took his own life, but guess what? We have the video. It is disturbing. We're going to put it up on a Patreon page. And I'm telling you, we're going to put a warning that it is disturbing, but we're going to put it up anyway. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. And then tell me how disturbing it is and say, Scott, how can you do that? We warned you. We don't put it up because it's gratuitous and graphic. We put it up to show you how quickly lives can change. And when we talk about, when I say, let it go, we're talking about shoveling snow, for goodness sakes. And neighbors saying that they're going to make the life of their neighbor miserable as long as he lives there. Let it go. That's why I don't take neighbor dispute cases anymore, because they always end poorly. And finally, on the docket today, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Please meet Joshua Hosington. That's right. He doesn't have a license. He shouldn't be driving. But guess what he allegedly did? That's right. He drove into a house at a high rate of speed, and then when he realized he couldn't back up, he attempted to flee on foot. The home suffered extensive damage, but no one was injured. Mr. Hosington was arrested for DUI, driving while unlicensed, as well as hit and run. I'm sure they'll add a plethora of other charges like leaving the scene of an accident, failure to provide insurance. Either way, that is the least of his concerns. But Mr. Hosington, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day because you knew you were intoxicated. You knew you couldn't operate that motor vehicle the way a sober person would, as evidenced by the hole in the house. That's right. You are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. Now, Mr. Hosington, if you are a dumb criminal contestant of the week, you will receive Crime Talk merchandise. Now, if you are the winner, please do not put any adult alcoholic beverages in that cup because apparently you cannot handle them. You, sir, should only drink maybe a good Red Bull, maybe a cup of coffee from that cup. If you all would like Crime Talk gear, please go to the link below and order it. You'll be happy you did. It's good quality stuff. Send us a picture in your Crime Talk gear. We'll put it up on our social media. All right, that's all we have for you today. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow on Crime Talk.